Perfect. The newest cinematic achievement since Morbius, Minions Rise of Gru, hit theaters about a month ago, so today I'm ranking every Illumination film from the worst to the best. In last place is Despicable Me 2. Now, to be fair, I have not seen the first two Despicable Me movies in a long time. I'm not planning on rewatching them, but from what I remember, I have always found this to be the weakest of all of these films. And by weak, I mean 3 out of 10 worst one. It just about hits every beat I hate about these types of movies. So many dumb plot lines, cliches, unfunny jokes. It's nice that this film doesn't rehash some of the ideas of the first film, but it doesn't expand on the universe at all, being a lot less unique than the first, and I don't even like the first one. In 11th place is Despicable Me. Look, there's nothing excruciatingly bad about this film, but it's bogged down with immature jokes and annoying characters, which makes it a film I do not like as much as some people. It seems as if it's guaranteed that young kids ages 4 or 5 will enjoy it, but for some reason, I don't remember liking this one that much when I was around that age. It's basically just a cash register disguised as a motion picture and only made to make money. All of it is just too grotesque to me, and in my opinion, it is definitely not one of the better films produced by Illumination, contrary to popular belief. Just cracking the top 10 is Despicable Me 3. Unlike the others, I actually did like this one when I was younger, but looking back at it now, I realize that it isn't a good film at all. At this point, the franchise started to feel tedious and repetitive, so the filmmakers tried to add this 80s style villain for nostalgia bait, and it falls flat so hard. It tries to do so much, and I never thought I'd complain about a Despicable Me movie having too much plot. At this point, I had no wish to see any more films featuring the Minions. Little did I know that we were about to get the cinematic masterpiece that is Minions Rise of Gru. In 9th place is The Secret Life of Pets. The Secret Life of Pets is truly one of the most boring and generic animated films released, but other than that, it's just a harmless adventure for dog lovers. It plays out similarly to Toy Story, which sounds good, yet it isn't. The characters in this are one-dimensional and unlikable, and as I said, this is just a boring and forgettable kids film that doesn't even have very good animation. It does the absolute bare minimum to keep children entertained, and it ends up just wasting your time. The entire thing ends up feeling like a staggered joke rather than an imaginative exploration of how pets act when their owners are gone like the trailers made it look. Next up in 8th place is Hop. We don't really get very many Easter movies that focus on the bunny, so this was great for me to watch around that time, but just like Despicable Me 3, when I look back at this now, I perceive that it's really bad. There are a couple nice moments, but it just dissolves into a mundane experience that seems imitative of Alvin and the Chipmunks and various Christmas movies. This was Illumination's first and only attempt at a live-action animation hybrid film, and I can see why. Next up in 7th place is The Secret Life of Pets 2. This one has quite a few redeeming aspects, such as the inclusion of Harrison Ford and some surprisingly funny moments, but unfortunately none of them are good enough to make the whole thing a good film. It has a bunch of different stories going on, and I was only actually interested in like one of them, and that wasn't even good enough to make me want to keep watching. All of it just feels like an attempt to return to the success of the first installment, which wasn't even good, rather than giving the opportunity to grow as a franchise. In 6th place is Minions. You know, I actually don't hate this one as much as most people do, but by no means does that make it good. It's just a mediocre project to me that doesn't offend me or anything. It's just not a film I'll ever rewatch, like ever. The Minions being the main protagonists, rather than the side characters, doesn't really work as much as the studio hoped. However, it made over $1 billion at the box office, so I guess it was fine for them. It kind of plays out more like an anthology series with just a bunch of skits and jokes that don't really serve a purpose to the story, which makes this more of a dull and boring film than a funny one. Just making the top 5 is The Lorax. I would actually call this the first good film on the list. Actually, I take that back. It's not good, it's just such a guilty pleasure of mine and a very nostalgic film, and one of the better adaptations of Dr. Seuss's classic stories. I remember watching this I remember watching this a lot and sometimes just skipping to the song How Bad Can I Be and turning the volume up really loud. I can't find much that's inherently good, but since it's such a guilty pleasure, I give it about a 6 out of 10. Also a really memeable movie, which automatically makes it better. Number 4 is Sing. The entire story exists solely to just have big pop song performances to get a rise out of the audience, but if you go in knowing that's exactly what you'll get, you'll have a fun time. The characters can be basic and generic, but I really liked some of them. Johnny the Gorilla and Mike the Mouse were really fun characters to me, with really great moments at the end when they sing their songs. It's overlong and straightforward, but it's also colorful, can be funny, and tuneful, and sometimes that's good enough. 7 out of 10. Winning the bronze medal is Minions: Rise of Gru. I surprisingly really liked this film. The trailers made it look like another lazy cash grab with the Minions, but this was surprisingly a genuinely good movie. The inclusion of Gru made almost everything bad about the first film better, and this one actually had some really funny moments. The animation is super colorful and appealing, and the vibes of the 70s setting paired with the soundtrack of that period create such a fun mood. Easily the best Minions movie or Despicable Me movie out there, and I'm happy I made it into the top 3 of this list. My runner-up is The Grinch. A really unnecessary remake of this story. I mean, we had already gotten the animated TV special from the 60s, and then the Ron Howard directed remake with Jim Carrey, but it's fun. Benedict Cumberbatch gives an unenergetic performance of the Grinch and pales in comparison to Jim Carrey. He needed to be a lot meaner with the inflections in his voice, but he's okay and good enough for this adaptation. The use of pop music can get tiresome, but Tyler the Creator carries the entire film. It's awesome how he kept his distinct and amazing style, even though this is an animated kids movie. But in first place is Sing 2. I hate how all the trailers just spoiled this entire film. They took out all the most important parts of the film and just put them in the trailer. That honestly just made the film worse because I wasn't feeling surprised and it took away from the film. That said, in the theater, I still shockingly did get chills at one moment of the film. I know, it's an Illumination film. What can I say? The storyline is basically the same as the first, just with higher stakes and a much bigger show. That seems to be what happens with big production sequels, but I'm not complaining. All the cast here is the same except for a few newcomers like Halsey and Pharrell Williams. All the performances are really good, and the singing is great despite the autotune. Even though the acting was good, not all of the characters were. I feel like some major characters were sidelined, and I wish that Johnny was a bigger character than he was. The first had a lot more variety when it comes to the music, but this one was just so fun. I had a great time with this in the theater, and it's my favorite Illumination film.